All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next on our agenda, any business pertinent to the township. We'll limit discussions to 15 minutes per person. That is any item that's not on our agenda that you'd like to bring forward. Seeing that there's nobody else here joining us except for Mr. Barry, we will forego that item this evening. Moving on to Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item I have before the board this evening would be to authorize staff to prepare and solicit bids for landscaping and maintenance services for several stormwater best management practices in the township. One being the rain gardens here at MSC, across the bridge at Cedar Run Park, and then the bioretention basins that we now have constructed and are responsible for maintaining. That would be Public Works, Sheepford West, and the Moreland bioretention basin.
Commissioners, is there any questions for the director this evening?
Becky, the plans are all ready to go?
Yes, we have the specifications fairly ready to go. We'd be looking to put these out to bid probably next week.
Now, when I was reading, and thank you again for the very detailed report on this.
Sure.
So that we get a good picture of it before we get here. And I noticed in the report that the cost of maintaining them will come out of the stormwater fee budget.
Yes.
Or the stormwater budget, i.e. the fees.
They are budgeted expenditures, but yes, the fees to pay for the services will come out of the stormwater fee.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume with the grants that we've been gathering over the last couple of years, we're still doing very well on the stormwater budget.
Yes.
At this point?
Yes,
Okay.
very well. Our cash current is, well, last month was $2.6 million.
Mr. President, if there's no other questions, I will move to authorize staff to prepare and solicit bids for landscaping maintenance services for 3 bioretention basins.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz and a second from Vice President Black. Is there any further discussion or any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item I have before you is for your review and consideration is to approve a job description. We've done some restructuring in the Public Works Department and reorganization, and we are looking to approve this job description for the Maintenance Operations Supervisor in the Public Works Department. This is just some switching around of positions. It's already approved in the budget, but we have Operations Supervisor for the parks, and we're looking to have this position created for the maintenance or highway staff.
Okay. Again, thank you for the details that you've given us in our packets this week on this item. Commissioners, if you have any questions, now's a good time, and otherwise I'd like to look at some action on this evening to get this rolling.
Mr. President, if there's no questions, I'll move to approve the Maintenance Operations Supervisor's job description.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz and a second from Vice President Black. Any further discussion or any more questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that it this evening?
That's it. Thank you so
very much. Next, moving on to Community and Economic Development. Will this be handled by you,
Yes.
Aaron?
In your packet, you have a resolution for the plan revision for the land development for Lark Meadows. This is a sewage facilities planning module. So typically, we have an exemption, so we're not usually required to do this step, but the sewer authority actually has a cap now, which doesn't have much to do with operations of the sewer authority, but has a lot to do with the weather that we had in the last couple of years. So because of that, you'll see some of these bigger plans coming through requiring the full module. Plus, because each of these lots required a grinder pump, I think DEP wanted to see a more in-depth study. So the township is actually required to be an applicant for them. So this is a resolution that we have to pass in order for this to move forward. And I think in the packet, I gave you the sewer planning module in case you had any questions about it. And once the resolution's approved, then there's a transmittal letter that our secretary will sign as well.
And commissioners? If there's no questions or any discussion, I think we should probably get this moving as well this evening.
Mr. President, I'll move to approve Resolution 2022 R10 for plan revision for new land development for DEP on the Lark Meadows Sewage Facilities Planning Module.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Vice President Black. Are there any questions or discussions now? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. And the next item is approval for a job description for a zoning and codes administrator. We previously had Maggie, and Maggie was a codes technician, and she was kind of being trained underneath John to work on some of the zoning and also some of the enforcement issues. But John eventually will be retiring, and we need somebody who is pretty well-versed in zoning to kind of take over that portion of John's role. So we're looking to bring in somebody who has the ability to write some codes, as well as already knows some of the enforcement techniques and has some experience with zoning and zoning review. So that's the position we're looking for. This person would probably actually be in the office, not actually out front where we used to have Maggie.
Mm-hmm. Commissioners?
Mr. President, if there's no questions, I'll move to approve the job description of the zoning and codes administrator and to advertise for its position.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz and a second from Commissioner Nagy. Is there any other questions or anything for discussion from commissioners? I just have one quick question. Okay. My question is there an intention that upon the unfortunate departure of Mr. Eby, that we would look to possibly restructure the department at all?
Yes.
Okay, that's included in this hire?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Thank you. That's the only question I had. I'll call for the question, commissioners. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And then, thank you. Is that it this evening? And I have another question that's unrelated to any of these two topics. Back in, I want to say a couple meetings ago, we were talking about a possible ordinance, I think 2022-02, and my notes suggest it was going to possibly show up at this meeting, and I just want to know if you have any sort of update on that.
I didn't get some work done before Steve went on vacation, and I got a couple requests from public safety to tweak some things in the ordinance, so it is not yet ready.
Okay, and that's the fire code stuff.
It's building safety, fire, and property maintenance is all packaged into one update.
Okay, great.
So
And we might see it next time?
Hopefully next time.
Got it.
Within a month.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, public safety.
Very good. Commissioners, the first item, 10A on your agenda, you had a memo request for me to approve the activation of the Civil Service Commission. You recall in 2021 with our last hires, we expended the list that we had, and we now do not have a list. And so the county chiefs of police will be doing testing for the physical agility as well as the written the end of March. We are going to be part of that process, but in order to reestablish another list, and we don't have any open positions at this point, but we always need a list, especially because of the consortium testing. We take advantage of that. so that we have a list in the event that we would have someone leave for some reason. So this is a request essentially to activate the Civil Service Commission to begin that process.
Mr. President, I'll move to activate the Civil Service Commission.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz and a second from Vice President Black. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And again, Director, thank you for, and actually everybody this evening. I thought everything was spelled out really well in our packets this week. Thank you so much. And thanks for the good description of what's going on there too.
Moving on.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, B there is a discussion and possible action for the Innovative Strategies to Combat Crime Grant Award and a request for license plate readers LPR purchases. So the board will recall last year we came before the board and asked permission to apply for that PCCD grant. And the board approved it, graciously approved it at the time. We submitted all of the paperwork, and we were notified January 19th that we had received the award for the expansion project, and that grant is in the amount of $59,504. It's a sub-grant for the project. It would continue the NDI Technologies vendor to install two additional sites for license plate readers. And the benefit of this, we've reaped, as you saw when I asked to apply for the grant, we reaped a tremendous benefit from the existing LPR. And this would expand it to give us essentially 360-degree coverage of the commercial district. So it has aided tremendously in identifying perpetrators who have committed crimes in the commercial district and have tried to make their exit out onto 15. Usually, up and then out 581 and the getaway, and it's that's the path essentially. But there are some that take Hartsdale out to Gettysburg and Hartsdale out to Slate Hill, and those are basically do not have cameras at this point. So this would expand that project as phase one, as part one, and the grant. The total for the project is $62,022.98. But as the memo explains, that's a $2,500 overrun. But we also have $25,000 in 412,730 line item capital expenditures, which the board approved in the 22 budget to purchase a mobile LPR, and that would be mounted to one of the vehicles yet to be determined, but would allow for an officer to be roaming through parking lots and other areas of the township. And instead of being permanently placed as the other LPRs are, this would be a mobile rendition. That came in at $15,860. So if you basically add the $25,1898 onto that, we are still overall well under budget with what's available in capital for these two projects. So I would ask permission of the board to allow us to basically purchase the equipment for the mobile project, as well as the two stationary locations for the LPR. And I would entertain any questions.
Commissioners? The ongoing maintenance, is that performed by us or at least contracted through us?
It's contracted to NDI, so it's currently in the budget.
Okay.
So there's an annual fee for that, which is in the budget. Now the other benefit to this is that we are the host of this project. The server is located here in Municipal Building, but we have at least 3 or 4 other police departments that are part of that, and they pay their maintenance piece to that as well.
Okay.
So we invoice them and basically see that as a revenue source coming in. And the benefit is that we can search through the software a plate, for example, and see which LPR that plate might have gone through, what day, what time. And we get calls all the time from people that say, hey, can you run this plate and see if it went through your LPR? So it is a tremendous pointer system that actually, and allows actually mobile, because you'll see officers actually running it on their laptops as well and waiting for hits to come back. in that area.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Mr. President, if there's no questions, I will offer my congratulations to the director on securing the grant and move to approve the purchase for LPRs.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz to approve the project, the request for license plate readers.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Nagy. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to our Township Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining us tonight, as he introduced himself earlier, is Seth Berry from Solar Resource. And we've been meeting with Mr. Berry, Mr. Grove and I, for the past year or so, talking about different options for a solar project that was presented to the board when we
So you all have hard copies, and it's also up on the screen as well, just so we can follow along together. But my name is Seth Berry. I work locally here for a company called Solar Renewable Energy, LLC. We're in Mechanicsburg. We're actually right behind Ross Mine, right where the Lena Drive American flag is at. We're a family-owned business. We're a commercial solar company, so we're a general contractor. We build solar projects, and we also own projects as well. With that, we've been successful partnering with Township school districts and so forth through this public partnership on solar projects. The high level benefit to that is it allows the township to pass through out-of-pocket costs, or we'll show another option that's available, but it's technically within the system that we want. There's federal tax credits that are allowed for for-profit entities. We monetize that and offer the payments at a lower discount price to the township. Essentially, how it works. And we own it initially, and then provide benefits to you, and then the option to buy it out in year 6. Reason as federal tax for provides. Just going through a couple of pictures. The top left is our office building at Lena Drive in Mechanicsburg. Top right is Savannah Township. That was also one of the referral type projects that was referenced when we spoke with Rick and Tom about the individual options here. So that's a great example of a similar case study project that was Savannah Township project about 2 years old now. On the left is UJ, University Area 2040, they used to authority in State College. That's actually the first microgrid in Pennsylvania, so it actually has a battery that allows the system to produce power even when the utility go down. So that's the first utility microgrid, and that's up in State College. And then the bottom right one is actually the largest floating solar array in the country that was built in New Jersey. That one's about 3 years old as well. So we've done some simple projects and then some of the more complicated projects. These are all projects that we've done in company experience. Here's a high-level executive summary of what we're proposing to Lower Island Township. Essentially, we're providing proposing to install a solar project and own it up front. It's a little bit over 1 megawatt or 1,080 kW. 1,000 kW is 1 megawatt, and that's just a common metric for measuring a solar array size. What you'll see is a couple pictures, a couple slides from now that's comprehensive of 2 sites. One is St. John's Road by the Public Works Building. That's a large ground mount. And then there are 2 arrays proposed here at this site. One is a parking canopy in the police section of the parking lot, and then a ground mount that's on the north side of the building. The structure of the contract is called a power service agreement, or a PSA. That's, again, where we own it, and there's 0 out-of-pocket requirements of the township, and then you have the option to buy out the system beginning in year 6. It would be a 28-year agreement. Here's just some high-level information about us, just to kind of prove that we've been there and done that on projects. Again, we're headquartered out of Mechanicsburg. I would say 90% of our business is Pennsylvania-based, all across the state, and then our second most common state is New Jersey. So we've constructed projects in about 7 different states, but again, it's done in Central PA, Central PA. Again, we've had success with the municipality that market. And we've successfully developed around over 50 solar projects in commercial size. With the asset base listed at $250 million, and then about 75 megawatt hours of annual solar production. The other key highlight there is that we also have some the owner of the solar project as well. So when we're entering this long-term agreement, we need the people essentially contacting us for the construction piece and also the long-term side. Here's just the high level of some of the projects that we've done and some similar entities that I'm sure you can have several of these. Again, there's on the left-hand side, there's several similar entities around the township here. And just a quick solar energy market update. So you're asking why solar is now, when not in the past. A couple of things to point out. One is solar supply chain out there right now. The electric and natural gas markets are up dramatically. For an easy way to quantify that is PPL has a metric called the price compare. So the price compare is actually up about 60% in the last year for PPL. The township has not experienced that yet because you do have a long-term supply contract with Constellation that I think is set to expire in about 2 years. But that would be something you would feel as soon as you would go out to bid that contract. The market definitely has changed, and we're seeing quite a few individuals, they're seeing 50-60% hikes in what they currently were paying just because of supply chain issues, just like you've seen in any other type of industry. Another additional sweetener that's out there is there's a Act 129 rebate through PPL. That's part of the energy efficiency program that's been around since 2008. They just kicked off phase 4 in June last year. So they're trying to incentivize solar projects, and we haven't seen anything quite like this. So that Act 129 rebate is expected to offset about 15 to 20% of the cost of the system. What you'll see when we get to the cash flow is we're monetizing that and offering reduced payments to the township to help better perform over the 40-year period. Another incentive that's out there that's been around for a while is it's called an SREC, or Solar Renewable Energy Credit. That's a performance-based incentive. Think of it kind of like a solar dividend. As you produce 1,000 kilowatt hours of solar power, you generate an SREC. It's a supply-demand-driven marketplace. Each state has its own SREC program, and one SREC in PA is currently worth $40. If you equate that in terms, we all pay per kWh in the energy market. One SREC represents so you're currently paying about 5 to 6 cents right here. So it is pretty significant additional cash flow. And that also is a production-based benefit. So you see that year in, year out, there's just increased power. And one of the other stable recurring things that's been out there is there's federal incentives, there's tax credits, there's depreciation benefits. When you monetize that from a for-profit perspective, that covers a portion of the minimum return thresholds and allows you to offer reduced cash payments from the previously owned by the development authority, and that was recently repaid by the township in the last few months. But that's about 80% of the solar proposal right there. There's a couple of terms that we'll get to. Actually, through a detailed term called virtual net metering, you're actually able to connect that to the public works plan and use that electrons that are there and virtually offset most of the power consumed and the township are actually here at this location. So through virtual net metering, you can actually offset this site through PPL development process. It's basically an annual behind-the-scenes transaction that the PPL does to help promote solar's growth. So that's one site, and then here's the second site at the Commissioner's Building. As you can see, there's a parking canopy to the east or to the right of the picture. That's inside of the Fleece parking lot, and then there's a ground mount proposed to the north side that would consist of the two arrays. It'd be one consolidated array, but just two separate sections. So this entire proposal is comprehensive of all three of those. Here's just a high-level summary. You currently have about 54 PPL accounts. So that counts street lights, traffic lights, public works buildings, commercial buildings. That's quite common for a township to have that many. And as mentioned, most of the usage is physically at this building where we're standing. By doing these solar arrays, you're actually going to be able to offset about 95% of your portfolio energy consumption. And again, that's capable of happening through terms called virtual net metering and net metering. Basically, on a real high level, what net metering is, your solar array is going to produce a significant amount of power. Largely, it'll happen throughout the day, and you'll see a bell curve where May, June, July, August are your best performing months, and then specifically there, 10 to 2 is where they'll perform the best as well. So when you're overproducing power at those specific points in time, you're actually going to be selling the overgeneration back to the utility through a net metering process. That's all established up front. Then at nighttime, when solar is not working, you're actually going to buy back those credits from the utility. Essentially, it serves as the battery for you. So the whole net metering, the utility does it every 15 minutes, calculate how much you use or something to produce. If you want to basically think about your house, think the same concept that you don't need a battery because it's net metering concept. Here's a little bit more information about the specific solar contract and the power service agreement, or PSA. The real high level, we actually do the entity through a representative. So we are responsible for financing across the system. The township making monthly payments to us, essentially kind of like rent payment for the array. In exchange for those rent payments, you actually receive reduced utility bills with PPL. You also receive the abstract income as an ongoing benefit. We'll get to here in 2-3 minutes. You'll see that it's generating cash flow savings immediately. One other thing that we talked through, and there's zero capital requirement of the township, but a common thing that has been expressed by nonprofits is particularly a thing that we call prepayment of power. So that actually the township to make like $500,000 or $250,000 upfront investment to help buy down the cost of the power purchase agreement. Essentially, again, we call it prepayment power, but it reduces the monthly payment and the future offered as part of the PSA solar contract. Here's some high-level savings. These are also on cash. These are all based on the township making $500,000 prepayment of power. But as far as your year one number, you're looking at about $55,000 savings. That's based on what you're currently paying for your electric. As electric rates are significantly higher, you would receive more benefit once your constellation contract would expire and you'd be subject to more of the market-based rate. But months. Here's just another graph emphasizing what's happened in the PPL pricing. Here's just one about solar, and essentially showing you, this is from SEIA, which is a pro-solar organization called Solar Energy Industry Association. It's basically just showing you that solar's been significantly growing over time. As you can see, there's been significant growth here the last couple of years, and it's definitely been exponentially increasing year over year. And here's last, just quantifying the energy that's going to be produced by the solar array, turning that into some of the green aspects of, gallons of gas saved, cars off the road, trees planted. Here's some metrics just for quantitative purposes. I'll show the cash flow then. I know it's a lot of numbers. It might be easiest to look at your hard copy, but this was the cash flow that Tom and Rick and I had gone over multiple times. But basically, to quantify, we can certainly walk through that in detail, but as far as you're estimated to save about $55,000 in year one, which is shown in column L, which is that includes the $500,000 prepayment of power. And then you can see year two, you're looking at about a $54,000 savings in the same column. I'll highlight that in yellow. Basically just walks through kind of what the township would experience by taking this agreement. Starting on the left column, how much solar was produced. Column B is the effects of the solar renewable energy credits. And then those are quantified cash in column B, which you calculate and turn that into dollars. You should take the abstract price, which is $30, divided by 1,000, so there's about 3.8 cents. Price divided by 1,000 times the solar energy generated, you're looking at about $54,000 for a year. And the other item that you're going to see through reduced utility bills is what we call the avoided cost of electricity. It's essentially just a reduction to how much you're paying people. You're currently paying about 5.4 cents. That's also substantiated by constellation agreement. They have a rate of 2 years. Times the production units, which is the evaluation of 1.4 million, you're looking at $76,686 electricity savings from the PPL bills. And quantify both of those together, 53,000 estimates and 76,000 electricity savings, you're looking at about $130,000 in cash inflows. And then you'll see that that's basically rinse repeat each year after that. What you'll see is this is a 40-year cash flow. As far as the outflows, this is where the power service agreement, or the PSA, comes into effect. So the township would actually make monthly payments to the solar owner, which would be us. The annual number for year one is $74,000. If you divide that by 12, that's a little bit over $6,000 per month. That would be the fixed monthly payment. As part of this agreement, you would know exactly what you're paying. It's a 28-year agreement, and all of those numbers would be specified in the exhibits of the contract. In exchange for those $74,000, you're also, as shown, looking at making a $500,000 prepayment of power, and those are your only outflows that happen in the first year. And you'll notice in year two, there's no other outflows. It's just the PSA payment. And scrolling over just to the right, when all that math, the cash inflows of $130,000 minus the outflows, the first year you're looking at a $444,000 expenditure. That's because of the $500,000 prepayment of power that's invested. But if you look at year two, that's a little bit more of a example of what you would see. So you're looking at a $54,000 annual savings in year two. We can come back to any of these, but in year six, what we're showing is that the PSA would continue for years 1 through 5, and then during the contract, you will have the option to buy out the system, which would be highly 6. What we did in that is, assuming that the township doesn't want to be in the business of monitoring the system, we recommend you sign a service contract with us. We monitor the system daily through a remote monitoring portal. We can do our desktops, and we also do annual maintenance to make sure the system similar to like change to what we are. And as you can see in column L, we encourage you to buy out. If you're looking at $52,000 of savings, versus if you buy out $80,000, essentially you're able to finance it cheaper than continuing the PSA, which we would recommend. That's what we recommend to all our nonprofit clients. And when you come all the way down to the bottom, what does this look like for the 40-year time horizon? 40 years is the estimated useful life for a solar array. You're looking at about $2.5 million of net savings for the township. I know that's a lot of numbers, but any questions about the cash flow or the general high level on the structure of the PSA?
Seth, if I could ask you to clarify something, the $2.5 million, that's savings plus SREC credits, right?
That would be the net. So that would be savings, electricity savings minus payments plus the SREC
Plus the SREC.
in that. So the township would be $2.5 million for the benefit by going forward with the solar project.
Right. Cash positive for us.
So roughly 55,000 a year, somewhere in there on average.
Around there, yep.
And the service agreement that you would talk about, is that contingent upon us financing it through you, or could we, if we found a different way to finance it, we could still continue that annual service contract with you guys?
Yeah, however the township would, so as part of the power service agreement, you would have fixed monthly payments that would be specified. The year 6 buyout price for this, so on the cash flow, I'm circling with the cursor right now, that is $1.28 million if the township chooses to purchase this year 6. Each year that would get smaller. It is a like asset. So if the township did purchase that, you would choose to fund that purchase up to the township. That's cash, an extra loan note. As far as the operations and maintenance, we would do that however we choose.
That's my question, is the operation maintenance fee contingent upon us financing it with you, or if we just bank finance or how we finance, we could still do maintenance and operations agreement with you?
Correct. Yeah, we're not offering that financing for this, but we would offer the operations and maintenance service for the township regardless of how you choose. The reason you wouldn't need it is if you choose not to purchase it year 6, we're responsible for that, but you take by essentially the owner is responsible for operations and maintenance. And this is all expected to offset 95% of your energy consumption across all of your accounts. The industry is saying that the panels are about a 40-year useful life. That's substantiated from the manufacturer of the panels. They would have a 30-year power production warranty. At the end of year 30, they're still expected to produce about 82% of what they were producing in year 1. So it's about a 40-year useful life.
Commissioner Knight.
Just want to, sorry, I'm one of the new commissioners, so just trying to catch up and understand here. Obviously, this is a 40-year plan. This is a long time out. Out of all your customers, who is the longest, or how long? What is your longest customer thus far?
Sure, good question. So our company was founded in 2010, so we do have projects that have been in existence since 2010. One I'd reference would be Masonic Village.
Okay.
They did a project, I believe it was in 2011. That was a 1 megawatt, similar size to what we're talking here. And then they actually did a second project in 2018, which was a 2 megawatt.
Okay, and they're, whatever their initial, similar to this, are they kind of following to that? It's meeting their goals?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, we've had quite a few. One of the ones on the cover page, UAJ, we've had quite a few that have been a recurring, like what we call phase 2. UAJ would be another one that we've had a phase 1, then a couple years later, phase 2, which I think is further evidence that they've been impressed with the results of solar. We've had a couple that have done that.
Part of this 2.5 million in savings is based off, it looks like about 1.3 million in this SREC credits.
Yep.
It looks like they go down as time goes on. How do you base that? Or what happens if that program changes, or how? I guess for me, just knowing what's going to happen in the next 40 years is a lot of vagueness to that to try to predict.
Sure, good question. So the SREC is really what drives solar by state. So that is a state subsidization program.
Okay.
So when you compare that to other states such as like New Jersey or DC, PA is actually very behind the 8 ball compared to some of the other states. We actually only have 0.5% of our entire energy consumption is supplied by solar in PA. New Jersey's at about 5%, and a lot of these other states are trying to get to 50 or 100% renewables in the next like 10 to 15 years. So that SREC is really what drives it generates cash flow. So for New Jersey, as an example, the SREC price is $150. DC, it's $400. So the $38, it is a supply demand, it is a market driven price. We did see high of $55. And once COVID happened, essentially solar kept producing power, but the energy consumption went down overnight. So you had a whack in supply and demand curve. So $55 high actually dropped to about $20. And slowly rebounding, it's actually probably trading a little bit more than 42 to 44 range right now. So it does kind of depend on policy. There are a lot of bills being proposed there right now trying to push it ahead. See SREC prices go much higher. So because of that, it's just looking for your cash flow, but it's hard to estimate what it will be in year 17. That's why we do have it declining values, because we're running USD asset.
Questions?
I have one more for the manager. Were there any other proposals? Is there any other? I guess, is there anything similar?
We do not submit any other solar projects.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen this similar opportunities offered.
Not in this area as strong as the president. I did speak to a company probably about 3 years ago that doesn't not even around anymore. So SRE has a pretty good track record so far. Just calling around, I spoke to a solicitor about it, and we spoke to the solicitor at Susquehanna Township because they did a similar project with SRE as far as the necessity of doing a formal bid for this kind of project, and we've been told it's not necessary. So, we chose to kind of follow the path on this proposal and work closely with Seth on the details rather than go out and try to write an RFP and go out to bid for it.
Good question. I'm glad that we've taken our time with this. I think part of it was probably because of COVID, but I know this was originally presented to us in some form over a year ago, I think it was. And of course, I'm all for solar in general and moving to the cost savings. The thing, and I think you could probably answer because you're in the business, like anything else, my skeptical side says, okay, this is a solar rush, like a gold rush, right? And we're projecting these models out 20, 40 years. And are you getting any sense? And I guess when this starts to get worked out through, I mean, we'll probably have some more discussions with management, and we're relying on their expertise, particularly in the finance part, to understand this more and to verify, where the numbers will be. But are you saying that are going to stay true to form? Because I guess my fear is we've got government entities that are above us benefiting from taxes and so forth with power companies and then the private industry that ultimately, big fail. And so I'm wondering, we're hearing talk about, raising alternate tax dollars because of the diminishing amount of cars using gas, right? And is there any chance you think that these numbers will be diluted just based on the need down the road, things shift, everyone's into solar, everyone's gotten there, and all of a sudden we're not going to see these kind of savings because the costs added on that weren't projected into these models?
Sure. So income side or the production side, we have seen consistent production year over year. We've had systems around for 10 plus years. So as far as the income generation numbers, you got the SREC and then you got the energy savings off your yellow. It's hard to project what will happen with that over time. We just look past and what we've seen in the past year where electric rates are up 60%. Energy reporting to be under here and now when they update the twice a year, May and November. So they're expected to go higher again. What we do a lot of times with townships and counties and so forth is if you want to do like kind of a worst case analysis sort of model where maybe electric rates don't increase at all over the 40 years, and just what does it look like for the township? When we do that, you'll find most times than not that you're still very much in the green. So that's one way to de-risk essentially what happens with electric rates. Most companies in the energy industry, if it's a supplier or if it's a utility or whoever, they will typically tell you that they project about a 2% annual increase, just like an inflationary type cost. With some of the federal policies that are going in and just the transition to renewables, we have seen pretty significant jumps, and we may continue to see that. So that's the energy side, just what essentially what would your bill look like if you didn't do solar. The SREC side, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, about 0.5% of all of our consumption is actually solar powered. There's a term called the Renewable Portfolio Standard, or the RPS. The RPS it's basically what sets the SREC price. So essentially, as PA increases that RPS, or the percentage of our total pie that's generated by renewables, that creates more and more demand, because essentially that's related to tariffs and penalties that are paid by the utilities and the suppliers. So as they increase that RPS, or that percentage, that will increase the demand for SRECs and should help promote SREC pricing.
I see. So there's a chance that, at least in the short term, maybe the next 10 years, there's a chance that this gets really rolling to be much better than this.
And that's also why we're kind of de-risking just because it's part of your project. But I mean, as compared to states like New Jersey, you're looking at a 15-year SREC at $150 valuation. So what we're seeing here is $38. I do think there's more upside potential in PA than downside risk. I do think it's possible to see a $50, $60, $70 SREC here.
Thank you.
20 years would be better. We would save, this assumed 3% interest. At 3% interest, 20 years, we would save $651,000. So instead of the $2.4 million, we'd be over $3 million of savings if all the other estimates came in exactly on target. Also, that would still leave us ample cash flow, because the thought is that we would take some of that savings that the general fund's paying now in electric, and we would take just some of it and pay off all these costs, the maintenance, then the debt service. And we would have, if all these estimates come out, we would have excess cash. And just about every year, there's one here, I think, where we're replacing the inverter, is it?
Yeah, you're
Yeah, that's like we don't know exactly what year that would be, but at some point it's going to happen, so that's built into here. So that would be one exception. So your first year and that year, you wouldn't have positive cash flow. 3%, the rate is 3%, by the way, or I'm sorry, going from 30 years down to 20 would add about $13,000 a year. So it would, for those 20 years, it would reduce your cash flow, but overall, it would increase it for the whole project, like I said, of $651,000.
That's essentially savings interest. Savings $1,000 in interest. That costs us an additional amount of payments per year, because rather than extending the payment period out to 35 years or whatever it was, it's now down to 20 years.
So what you're seeing here is 30 years of interest. What I'm proposing is we just do 27 that year instead of $2.5 million to be over $3 million. So assuming everything else is exactly as we
model it as 20 years. With more savings at the end.
yes, during the 20-year period, it would be $13,000 less per year to have cash flow, because you're paying your bond off principal off in 20 years.
Okay, well, that sounds promising.
There's a risk that would be 3%, I think is very reasonable. Currently, I checked today for a double A rated municipality, which would be us currently, it's 2.0%. Triple A, which I think that was shot at 1.25, is currently 1.7%. So the even point is exactly 5%. So if we would get to 2025 and the interest rate we have to pay was 5% or more, that's not going to be so good. I mean, that's a tremendous increase. Not impossible, but not likely. I did speak with our financial advisors. They don't know what the rates are going to be either. I don't think anybody's actually predicting 5%. I don't think they're only usually predicting about 2 years. They're at 2.5, I think, projection for 2023. They don't go beyond that. So that's well below the risk for us. Concord was set aside with this charge as far as how we would look at the bonds and as far as the IRS requirements and everything else. So we do have a window of opportunity here, because we have the bond anyway. The timing is very good. So if you were interested in this project, I wouldn't wait another year. Because of the IRS regulations.
And then I heard somewhere in here about this is potentially could be an ARPA project.
Correct. We can go into more detail about where funding can potentially come from through that, but it's our understanding that these projects would qualify for ARPA funding.
Okay. Are we still looking for a place to put ARPA money?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, it's discussions for later anyway. If you or you guys will probably present to us what you feel is the best avenue to
Well,
pursue this.
with any long-term project that relies on income, I mean, there's always going to be risk. I mean, every time a utility builds a new power plant of any type, there's a risk. You never know. The risk here looked pretty good and under control, but you don't know. It's 40 years out. Nobody knows. But it's I wouldn't say that it's particularly a risky project, or I wouldn't be here talking about it.
Got it. Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? I'd like to, Commissioner Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, for Director Hall, we had discussed the possibility of the parking cover for the police lot. Is that part of your long-term plan with or without solar panels?
Yeah, I would like to see without the panels. I think it provides vehicle protection. My manager first, it's a possibility. I thought this basically takes care of the themselves, so it accomplishes that as a part of the project.
This only had partially covered that area. Would you like to see something that covers
There was a tree issue on the other side of the parking lot, which is why only one side of the parking lot was
Part of the issue with the trees, we did talk about maybe taking some trees down, but I think the more important issue is that we got interested in using that money to provide shelter for private individuals. That's why I think the first run I got from somebody in our area, I said no, you do that because we're only interested in covering the police force.
So that was where I had seen the original picture. So I didn't know so part of the cars in that same area. In addition to our entire fleet.
the gate, but those are not police officer private vehicles. They're in a secure area. But the private parking is on the railroad track side of that parking lot, and the opposite side is where the police vehicles are, and also where you saw that other canopy area as well.
Okay. Okay, and that's a good clarification from the manager to make sure that we're not using taxpayer money for that purpose. So I appreciate that. All right, I think that's all I have, Mr. President. I look forward to more discussion with staff on this before we make the final decision.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? So I think what I'm seeing here is that our next step to get more information and to process this a little more, and I think this should come from us commissioners and consensus if we can get there, is to, because I think it would require Director Grove and the manager at least to work on a model that would be similar to what the director just presented verbally to us, that would run along with this model to give us the second option of, with the financing down the road. And so I'm wondering, is that the direction you kind of want right now to get something prepared for us in the next
Well,
month or two?
not really. I think in the PowerPoint presentation, set out some next steps listed. I'm not really concerned about getting financing figured out now for what's going to happen 5 years from now. Because the finance director was explaining that circumstances could change. So what I'm really interested in doing is number one side, if you want to use the proceeds from sale of the cell towers service agreement. And then sometime between now and year 6, we figure out what the best finance option for us is. How do you feel about that right now? That direction we definitely right now. Or you feel like you want more time to ask the questions?
Mr. President, I think we'd be comfortable with more time for follow-up.
I think I would be there too. So I'd like to give the commissioners an opportunity between now and the next meeting. Maybe we'll shoot that as our target to ask some more detailed questions of the staff and perhaps through you, Mr. Berry. I'm sure we can contact you through staff if we have any specific questions for you, and then revisit this at the earliest at the next board meeting.
So you're saying 2 weeks?
Yeah, between now and 2 weeks from now, if you have any specific questions or any thoughts that you want staff to answer for you, that'll give us some time to get those questions out of the way. Is that good with you, Ed?
Yes, if it works for staff, yeah.
We serve at your pleasure. If you want 2 weeks to talk to staff and ask questions, you get 2 weeks.
Yeah, give us a little more time to process it ourselves individually, and then if we have questions. I know I'm not even 100% sure of the process itself, so I'm going to continue. I'm glad you've made the presentation. This is a piece of it that is very helpful, and for myself at least, I believe that it'll be helpful for me to process it. And then as I have a couple questions, I'll just ask staff. So, all right, so that's what we'll do. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Seth. I think of the problems we had with our main breaker back there in our electrical room, and the $38,280 that it took to replace that and to remove it and reinstall it and purchase the new one is well over what the amount of money is that we typically approve on staff. So I put it on here in case the board has any questions about it, but I am going to need you to authorize this payment.
Mr. President, I'll move to approve payment of $38,280 to Remco Inc. for work done on the Municipal Services Brill Center main breaker removal, install, and old breaker remanufacturing.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Nagy. Any discussion on this item?
This is work that's already been done, right, Tom?
That's correct.
I'm ready.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Commissioner reports. I'll start with Rebecca.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
John?
Just looking forward to working with some new staff in community development and being able to mentor somebody before I retire. So thanks for approving the request tonight that Aaron presented.
Right.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Renee? No. Tom?
Nothing further.
Aaron? Dave?
John and I had a conversation today. The county planning, they're going to be having a meeting on the HM, the hazard mitigation plan, virtually next Tuesday. So we went over a lot of the things today, and we plan on attending that meeting virtually. And it's an annual thing, but it's just a routine annual thing with the county on the hazard mitigation plan. So you saw the memo in the resolution for the sale of Engine 112. Fire company did a really nice job pulling that together and getting $110,000 agreed from West Shore Bureau of Fire. So that's the title will be transferred to them. then they will sell it and they will use the money proceeds as upfitting for the new engine. And then whatever's left over after that comes back to the township fire fund. So manager and I had a conversation with the fire chief about that, and that's moving forward. I can let Leon talk about when you get to him with the PLIAC on site. We had our Pennsylvania law enforcement accreditation on site. It went extremely well. I'll let him talk about that. And then Commissioner Malone was at the 4-Minute City Avive program, and the Avive program is Captain Deven has kind of spearheaded that, and that is a tremendous program for the Peyton Walker Foundation to get AEDs out in the community. So all of those things, and other than that, thank you for all the motions and approvals this evening, and it's good to be back. It was a rough 2 weeks.
Glad to see you back. Steve?
Just one item for executive session.
Okay, thank you. Captains, anything this evening? Oh, yes.
I think Dave pretty much said it all. We did have the PLIAC assessment. It's kind of anticlimactic after the CALEA assessment, but it is important. And it went extremely well. And following the adoption or acceptance of that report in March at the PLIAC Commission meeting, we'll be designated as a premier agency, which is just one more accolade for the department.
Outstanding. Captain Deven?
As you're aware, sir, the 4-Minute City was launched on Wednesday. It's a goal to get AEDs within Cumberland County to everybody within 4 minutes. That is a great project to be associated with. Big collaboration with a lot of agencies. So we look forward to that being successful. And there's some of you sitting up there that I'll be reaching out to you personally for some involvement in this as we move forward and where we're going to place these AEDs. So that's where
Thank
we're
you.
going. Thanks.
Commissioner Black?
Just a question, is this a first, Tom, that a neighboring municipality fire company would buy one of our trucks?
In my memory, yeah. I don't remember selling any. I remember selling them to other fire companies in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
but none this close.
Yeah, in the past, we have advertised through vendors, and we didn't get a whole lot of money when we did that. I think when we sold the last engine, 2 years ago, we got like $43,000 or somewhere in the 40s. And that was to a South Carolina fire company. So our fire company realized that West Shore Bureau of Fire was looking for an engine. They knew this was well maintained, it was good. It does have some rust, so they didn't get the asking price, but it's still, they think, to be able to sell locally, I think is a really good thing. So kudos to the fire department for making that connection, so we didn't have to advertise.
Good. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Commissioner Nagy?
I was able to attend my first sewer authority meeting as liaison. Just wanted to update you to let the board know they are planning a study for 4 different areas of the township that's not connected to sewer. So there might be some developments there in the coming years that they'll be working on. As our emergency management liaison, I attended class this weekend from Cumberland County for emergency management training for elected officials, and also went to my first Lower Allen Fire Company meeting as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Kutz?
Thank you, Mr. President. This past weekend, I was pleased to welcome Idea Coffee to Arcona and the shops there right on Market House Lane. Idea Coffee's been operating out of a trailer while their permanent storefront was being constructed, and it is beautiful inside. Thanks to Charter Homes Neighborhoods for providing coffee on Friday for the soft opening, and then it was open for their grand opening on Saturday. So it's always nice to welcome small businesses to our community. Arcona's full of them. They're the lifeblood of that community. The Crossroads businesses, all locally owned, with just some outstanding business owners. So very pleased to be a part of that, Mr. President. In addition, I'm pleased with the investment the board continues to make in public safety, investing in new emerging technologies that will continue to help our law enforcement in the area, to help be able to solve crime and help be able to work cooperatively with other agencies from surrounding municipalities who have also implemented similar technologies. I think this is a great step forward in the right direction for us as we continue to make our community safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll ditto on the Idea Coffee. If you haven't been over there yet, it's a really neat facility. Rounds out the neighborhood at this point. It's a neat place, and it's just so nice out in that part of the township, having the businesses emerge and having some variety. You can go out and have ice cream, you can have dinner, you can do Pilates. And Springgate's out there, and Amore's all right there. And, walking down through the neighborhood as frequently as we do, it's neat to see all the people in the neighborhood there that are joined by people that are just kind of walking around, touring. Maybe they're going to one of the shops that don't live in the neighborhood, enjoying the facilities. So, but Idea Coffee certainly adds a neat feel, a neat vibe down there. It's cool. I did attend the 4-minute city presentation. I thought that was neat. I didn't know what to expect. It was very well attended. I don't know what the count was, but I would assume there was probably somewhere between 75 and 100 people in our bays. And if you didn't have the opportunity to see a video on it, I would encourage everybody to look at that presentation and what they're trying to achieve, to have these smart devices positioned within 4 minutes of every crisis. So it's a neat opportunity. I'm glad that we can be a part of it. Thanks, Director and Captain and our public safety folks and our management for bringing those innovative things to around Township that are going to just benefit our residents. I attended the Lisburn Fire Company monthly meeting last Thursday, the first Thursday of the month it is. I normally attend regardless because Vicki and I are members of the fire company and we usually try to attend the meetings, but I attended this one in place. Commissioner Nagy couldn't be there, and so I went on the business side of it, and I was pleased to know or to find out that there's an effort right now to have Scott Rhino, the consultant who presented the facility study to us, and the fire company was open to it by their leadership. They want to have that presentation done for them as well separately, because a lot of them couldn't be here. A lot of the folks down there didn't understand what information was being processed. And so I thought that was refreshing to know that they're planning that out so that they're going to have a private viewing, so to speak, of what we've already seen on that presentation. And I would encourage anybody here, commissioners and everyone else, if you want to see that presentation again or see it for the first time in person by Scott, the fire company, I don't know if they've scheduled it yet, but they will be scheduling that down at the fire.
It's not scheduled yet.
Okay.
And we're going to invite Jesse Suter as well, the GIS.
Jesse, yeah. So I would, we'll look forward to seeing that date come up. I also attended the Parks and Rec meeting last month, and it was Miss Carbachi, Josie Carbachi, as we appointed her to the Parks and Rec board. It was her first meeting, and I was really pleased to see how well that group, I think, is going to work together moving into 2022. Very impressed with the ideas they have coming for this year. I think the Gardeners Gathering is going to happen in the spring and not the fall this year, it sounds like. And TBD, but there's a neat project they're going to have for that. And so I would just keep your eye on that. I'll just say, if you like the idea of a rain barrel, you might be able to pick one up at a good cost and build it yourself that day if you want to attend. But Parks and Rec, they've got some neat things, I think, cooking for 2022 and beyond. So I'm looking forward to see what comes out of there. So we are going to go into executive session. Is there a need for us to come out and take action?
Yes, there is, at least on my item.
Okay, so we will be in a second recessing to executive session. But before we do that, I would just like to thank the staff and everybody here tonight for your hard work. We obviously do the right things in Lower Allen Township. Our residents I run into are pleased for the most part, so thank you very much for all your hard work. And I'm calling this Lower Allen Township regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of February 14th back to order. We've been in executive session discussing a couple of items, and I believe we're coming out of executive session with a possible motion or two.
Yes, Mr. President. I move to accept the resignation of Brian Harshbarger from the position of Public Works Coordinator, effective immediately.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz.
Second.
I have a second from Vice President Black. Is there any discussion or comments at this point? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to authorize staff to internally advertise the position of Maintenance Operations Supervisor.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Nagy and a second from Commissioner Kutz. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. At this point, is there any other business pertinent to